फांसी दो बलात्कारियों को फांसी दो हाय 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 हाय
Government hopes that the stringent provisions of the ordinance will have a deterrent effect on potential criminals during the period between now and the date on which the new law will be enacted by Parliament. Substantive amendments have been made to the Indian Penal Code, while the recommendations of the Justice Verma Committee on punishment have been accepted. Death has been prescribed as a maximum punishment in the case of rape, followed by injury which causes death or causes the victim to be in a persistent vegetative state.
In recent times, we had significant changes being brought into the criminal laws in our country. The 2013 amendments to the IPC and the CRPC brought in a lot of changes. Among them was the fact that repeat offences where there were 2 convictions for rape could possibly result in the death sentence being administered. Not only when it came to these sort of very serious criminal laws, but also for other areas. For example, black money is seen as a huge problem in our society, and a major law was brought in to curb this. And it was felt that in order to effectively address the problem of black money, you had to have very severe punishments. So the law itself has punishments up to 7 and 10 years for things like not reporting on foreign sources of income, or having assets abroad that you don't report. But the problem is that punishments like 7 or 10 years is also the same kinds of punishments that you have for very serious offences like causing grievous hurt to somebody or for rape in India. Is it that we as a society consider both these offences, that is failing to report certain income tax, as well as these very serious offences that you commit against the body of a person, are we considering them on the same playing field?
Okay, my response will be twofold. One, I think I need to tell everyone that there is no sentencing policy in this country. Sentencing is as arbitrary as you can get. I don't know how the legislature arrives at particular sentences for particular offences. Inevitably, there is the problem of over-sentencing. I am opposed to this kind of long incarcerations. I think we should have a conversation about sentencing, but across all laws. If you have seen the definition of section 124A, which is sedition, which is the flavor of the season at the moment, you will see that the sentence varies from life imprisonment to 3 years or to fine. You know, it's this broad spectrum. I don't understand this kind of sentencing policy. I don't know why some people are convicted for 4 years for one offence, and people who have committed an identical offence are let off on probation. So there is an inconsistency across the board, both with respect to legislatures which bring out laws. With the passage of every new law, the sentences seem to be increasing.
There doesn't seem to be a clear process by which a legislature or policy maker first states the fact that they consider a certain range of offences to be more serious than a certain other range, and therefore that they should be punished more severely. And we feel that this lack of discretion or guidance, or just this utterance that you should punish these kinds of crimes in this way, this lack of guidance then rolls over to the judiciary as well. So very little guidance is given from the legislature to the judiciary, as a result of which judges are not often do not have these guidelines to know how they should punish.
With respect to its application by courts, I don't think courts particularly, I don't think they have evolved a serious sentencing policy to guide them for purposes of awarding sentences. Where there are minimum sentences, again, sometimes, I do question the need for minimum sentences sometimes. I know people may oppose me on this, but I have a problem with minimum sentences because that completely takes away discretionary powers. At the same time, when you say that, when the debate only centers around rape cases, I'm compelled to say that let's look at sentencing in general. Don't look at rape cases and say the sentences are unfair. Let's look at all laws and let's have a standard sentencing policy across the board. I don't think any human rights defender, any civil liberties defender is particularly keen on high sentences. I think we by and large oppose high sentences. The only thing I will say is that when you start talking about sentencing when a high profile person goes into custody, it becomes problematic because you can't have that conversation around the sentence given in one case. You have to look at sentencing across the board. You will not look at sentencing of a poor rickshawala or a poor panwala, but you will definitely look at the inappropriateness or appropriateness of a sentence of a high profile offender. That is problematic. So if we want to have a sentencing policy, we must look at all laws, all sentences.
There are a lot of theories out there on how and why punishment should be administered. And I'm sure that you would have heard of some of these theories as well. The most common one is deterrence. So the belief of the lawmakers seem to be that the higher the punishment, the more it will make people afraid of committing that crime and that crime itself will go down. But very few studies have been done or have shown that this actually works. Then there is the idea of just deserts, that the punishment must be proportional to the crime. Again, when you have very different things like tax returns and rape being punished in the same way, then how are you saying that the punishment and the crime are fitting with each other? Another very overlooked aspect of the theory of sentencing is rehabilitation, which is that you are not punishing the criminal in order for some retribution or as some kind of revenge from society's side, but you're actually helping him feel remorse and reintegrate back into society. Then you should be aware of these systems and clearly articulate when you are prescribing a punishment, which theory you're adopting and what is the connection between the ends that you're trying to achieve and the means that you're adopting. So for example, if your end is to reduce the amount of black money in society, then you should articulate why, as a government, you think that prescribing 10 years punishment for this certain crime will actually help in reducing that amount of black money. But this kind of deliberative process has been seen to be severely lacking.
The courts must evolve some kind of a mechanism where they have compulsory evidentiary hearings for purposes of sentencing, which is completely absent. Our sentencing hearings in courts are a joke because nothing, no mitigating circumstance, no aggravating circumstance is taken into account. It gets over in less than 10 minutes. That's not the way you should sentence people. So that's a larger debate, and I'm open to it.
While it might not be the job of the legislature itself to give these kinds of guidelines, we do feel that an institution that looks more holistically at sentencing policies both in the legislature and the judiciary and lays out certain principles, for example, that offences against property are less serious than offences against the body, or that we consider a certain set of offences to be less serious than another certain set, and ranges of punishment, saying, say, offences against property should typically be punished with not more than 5 years of prison, whereas offences against the body should typically be between 5 years and life imprisonment. That kind of ranking and ordering as broad guidelines would serve both legislatures and judiciaries much better in determining when a particular individual is in front of them how they should punish and how much they should punish.